And welcome to the Home Rule Charter Commission meeting of December 17th, 2025. I am pleased to say that we have a quorum plus one. So I am going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And we will start with an invocation from Roy Turbin.
Heavenly Father, thank you for your guidance through this process. Thank you for all of the blessings that you've given us. Please continue to guide us and help us through this time. Help us create a document that will serve the people of our wonderful town for many, many years to come. Help us create a document that will excite our citizens to joining and participating in our government. God bless all in this room. And thank you for your guidance, Jesus. Amen.
Yeah, thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you all. Well, we start off with public comments. Libby, would you like to kick us off?
All right. Y'all, Gene, he already answered my first one, so I've got two. I just did a quick skim, not into the weeds.
Mhm.
And you talked so much about the Board of Ethics that I'm not sure why, but it says in there that the Board of Ethics will be appointed to enforce the Code of Ethics. And I can't find a Code of Ethics. Is there a Code of Ethics somewhere?
There's a reference in there that the city council shall create by ordinance a code of ethics.
That's not in the same section as.
No, it's not.
Oh,
sorry. I'm
Because,
not
I mean, I
going to
think
try
it-
and quote the correct sentence
Okay,
right
that's
now.
fine, because I just think you have to have it in writing what it is you're
Yeah,
up about, so I can see anything, but maybe you can make a reference to where it is in, C
Good
section,
point.
whatever.
Mhm.
And then the second thing, and this is in reference to your agenda, where I see that you still got an item on there to discuss pulling some, giving the voters a separate vote on some parts, some section of the charter. And I'm skimming down at the bottom of the document, Article 10 adoption. It says that because it's impracticable to submit separate items, the vote has to be up or down. So how are you? I don't know why you keep putting options, floating ideas for options, when it seems to me that your document says you don't have any options. So
Wonderful question.
that's in.
And I will try to address that better when we get there, but simply put, there is an additional input related to code of ethics, ethics board, that might actually make that a good idea if it's feasible. And one of the things that we were expecting, hopefully, to get from the city attorney's office was guidance on whether or not it's actually feasible, proper, or how we could go about actually putting on an option on the ballot.
Okay, that sounds to me like you can do that. Okay, but I'm not the lawyer. Thank you.
We'll get to that.
Okay, wait.
No, I don't want to bog down right now.
Yeah.
Houston Wingard.
Thank you, sir. Houston Wingard, 709 Kingsgate. First, I'd like to say thank you to the Home Rule Commission. This is as diverse a group of people as I have seen, and yet was able to use those differences to deliver a charter that is as good as anything out there. There have been a lot said in regards to Article 6, initiatives, referendums, and recalls, some of which have been in error. I, for one, want to give the commission a job well done. This Willow Park Charter allows the citizens to have a vehicle to get involved with city business. To be proposed ordinance to the city council requires reconsideration to the city council or an adoptive ordinance or passive resolution, or the power to remove any officer serving in an elected office. I would like to talk in particular to section 2.0 and 6.0, I'm dyslexic, so I'm having trouble with numbers. 6.02 through 6.14. To get 10 qualified voters to form a petitioners committee is a great start to getting citizens involved in city business. Then to get the lesser of 30% of those who voted in the most recent general election or municipal election, or 10% of Willow Park residents who are current registered voters, is no small task. This would be approximately 225 signatures using the 30%, or 440 signatures using the 10%, either of which, again, is no small task. Aledo, on the other hand, requires 20% of the voters in the last regular city election for both initiative and referendum, and 30% of the voters in the last regular city election for recall. I had a conversation with a recent resident of Aledo, and he said requiring this many signatures sets the bar too high and needs to be changed. I would assume that's going to happen sometime maybe in the near future. I don't know. In other words, what our commission has come up with is not only encouraging city residents to get involved, but it also gives them the tools to do just that. Again, thank you to the commission for your hard work coming up with a charter that is nothing less than best practice and a benchmark for other cities to use to get their cities off to a great start. I can't imagine any voter in Willow Park who wouldn't vote approval for this charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, is the light thing working or not working?
Is yours? I'm looking at it. I'm pulling it up.
We might have to do that again.
Broadcast.
It's working on my phone.
Yeah, it's working on mine too.
Perfect.
So
Is there a problem with the video and or audio?
Negative.
Thank you. Marcy Gowan?
Thank you, Gene. My name is Marcy Galley. I live at 500 Squaw Creek Road. Thank you all for the many hours of volunteer work you've put into drafting our home rule charter. This has been no small task. I've heard Carol Wagner speak several times about her concerns related to the threshold required for initiative, referendum, and recall efforts. The way it has been described in process is incorrect, and I want to be sure the citizens have the complete truth and the facts surrounding the process. State law currently allows a referendum petition requiring 5% of registered Willow Park voters to send a certain bond issuance to a general election. That's going to be approximately 230 signatures for our city. If anyone is concerned about a small but motivated group of citizens influencing city decisions, it is currently called our city council. A referendum driven by 5% of registered voters represents more democratic legitimacy, not less. A home rule charter requires hundreds of registered voters unified on a single issue to trigger a public vote among approximately 4,600 registered voters. That is a far stronger signal of community will than the actions of a handful of council members acting alone. And again, I want to remind everyone that only one of our current councilmen has been challenged at the ballot box. The majority are serving by appointment. Again, if the worry is that a small group can steer city policy, we already live under that system and have been for a while. The ability for registered voters to petition their government simply provides a check and balance, allowing a broader base of citizens, not just 5 to 7 individuals, to have a voice when an issue matters enough for citizens to organize and get hundreds of signatures. That's no small task. If our elected officials and some residents are good canceling my elections year after year, it's their option not to care, but I care. I prefer to have a full council elected by the public they serve. If our elected officials and some residents are good, never asking the voters to approve millions of dollars in debt, it is their option not to care, but I care. The last time Willow Park asked citizens to approve debt was in 2016, the year before Doyle Moss took over. Again, initiative, referendum, and recall do not overturn or bypass city council decisions. These mechanisms allow hundreds of registered voters to pause city council decisions and allow all voters to approve or reject the measures or measure. A home rule charter gives a voice to the people through these important rights, not available under general law. I champion this home rule charter. I appreciate all the work y'all have put into it. Great minds. And it's all been online for everybody to see. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And the last citizen that wants to speak is Teresa Palmer.
Okay. So I want to talk about ethics because that caught my attention. So when I started looking at that, some reports show 75 to 80% of the home rule charters in Texas have a code of conduct or ethics in their charters. So these are some, but not all the professionals that adhere to ethics and code of conduct. Attorneys and prosecutors, judges and legal clerks, doctors, nurses, physicians, assistants, dentists, pharmacists, therapists, counselors, financial advisors, accountants, CPAs, auditors, bankers, and investment professionals, police officers, firefighters, emergency responders, CEOs, executives, board members. Best practice. The development of strong ethic program is considered a best practice to boost public confidence and promote integrity in city government. And many cities do adopt them as part of their charter or ordinances. So for me, it just sounds logical to have it for the mayor, the city council members, legislators, and the city managers, clerks, and public administrators. So that's what I want to say about ethics. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Last chance. Any more citizens want to speak? Okay. Moving on to approval of meeting minutes.
Motion.
Okay. I assume you're talking about the meeting minutes for December 3rd, 2025. I have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any discussion or input on the draft minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I will distribute those for posting hopefully tomorrow. Okay. So, and I probably should have passed this out. Somewhere I'll put that. There was a pile of smaller pages that look like this. Somewhere? No? Will do. Okay, what I have on the screen there can help. We have a meeting tonight. We could potentially have a meeting on the 7th of January. The next city council meeting is the 13th of January. I had originally, or most recently, presented that we would attempt to submit the draft charter to the council at their 13th of January meeting. I have had no response yet on the status of the legal review that the document is in. We may identify a few more changes tonight. we could still potentially finalize the charter for the 13th. But yeah, go ahead and pass these around if you would. And I don't know how this will show up on the video, but what I'm passing out is per week, various things happen. The yellow blocks are potential home rule charter commission meetings. The pink blocks are the typical schedule twice a month city council meetings. This green block over here is on Friday, February 13th, and that is the drop dead date to order an election for May. And so I just want everybody to be aware, time is short. I believe that we have a product that is should be made available on the ballot in May. And I really hope that we can meet that because if we don't meet that and we push it off to December or to November, then it'll get lost in the noise of the state and federal election stuff. And I really think that would be a setback for this activity. Okay. I've also identified here on these blue boxes potential nights that we could hold town hall meetings to better advertise, inform, educate, and receive feedback from Willow Park citizens. Okay. Having said all that, the drop dead to get the charter submitted to the council could be as late as their first meeting in February, but I think we should consider our last goal would be the 27th of January. Okay. So, having said that, does anybody have any thoughts, opinions, or input on what we might consider as far as trying to schedule town hall meetings to benefit the citizens?
One thing before that, I think we should make the deadline definitely 27th of having it to the council. I don't think it's fair for the council to get it and have to make that decision on the 11th or on the 10th.
No, February? No.
Yeah, I think that's just
absolutely
not fair. I would prefer us to have it ready on the 13th. And with the scheduling that we have and with Fritz and his people working, I don't see why we shouldn't be able to vote a document that night.
I think that's a potential. But since I have no status back on where the city attorney's office is with the legal review, that's an uncertainty that I don't know how to address.
Right.
Mr. Martin, I think that timeline and that framework is certainly doable from the perspective of this.
Which time frame? 13th of January?
13th and or the 27th.
Okay. Well,
We'll have our comment. Well,
do you have at this point an estimated date of delivery of your report or input? Or in fact, I think we had asked if you find issues as you're going along. I don't necessarily want to wait for a final report to find out what we might have to be looking at.
I understand that. And I've enlisted some help of some other attorneys in our office to also be a second, third set of eyes to go over the document. Dr. Susan Thomas from the office. He's helping me review.
Okay.
And we will have It's January, that's a Wednesday, is that correct?
Sorry?
January 7th is a Wednesday?
Yes.
That's a
That
potential
is.
meeting.
Yes.
You can shoot for having our comments done by then.
Well, in
Sure.
order,
Go ahead.
seriously, in order for this commission to address issues, if there, I mean, I don't know that you found anything at this point, so.
So the things that I'm looking at are not huge. They're really maybe cleanup items.
Okay,
I don't think we're talking about a huge
okay. So
time burden.
could I then, request that you target, say, noon on Monday, January 5th as a time where I should be able to distribute any report from your office to the commission?
Absolutely.
And the preceding Friday would be better.
I'd like to work on the weekend.
It's it.
Pardon?
It's the 2026.
Well, I have had a couple people make comments using the word, well, you're rushing into this. This is our 8th working meeting, our 9th meeting. We've had 2 town halls. I think we have been deliberating this in some, I thought we beat a couple of subjects to death pretty thoroughly. But I don't believe we are rushing this, and I don't feel rushed. I don't want anybody on this commission to feel rushed. But again, I'm sensitive to getting late input and not giving the commissioners enough time to digest and do anything about it. And I'm kind of guilty. I threw a whole lot of stuff at them this week too. So. Sorry. Okay, any other comment on the schedule?
We just may, as a commission, we may want to, plan at least tentatively to meet on the 14th as well, if we need an additional session.
How does everybody, we adopted certain rules when we first got together. One of those rules was 2-hour meetings every 2 weeks. And again, this was so that we don't overload ourselves. I mean, it takes time to digest some of this information. I agree. Darrell has suggested that we might want to include in our plan the ability to have a meeting on January 14th. Carol.
I think this commission has worked very hard. And I am very heartened to see all of the people who are attending this meeting today. And I assume that means we're getting more interest from the council and from Willow Park citizens in this home rule charter. And I think that's a great thing. And I hope that we see as much participation in our future meetings as we're seeing this evening. I think that having a meeting on the 14th is a very good idea in case we do need to take additional action, have additional discussion, make changes, and more importantly, give our citizens another forum to come and hear what we're saying, hear what we're concerned about, and give us their concerns to the extent they have something they feel the need to tell us. I'm not surprised that people weren't very engaged or as engaged as we were getting started on this. But now that we have I won't call it a finished product, but a semi-finished product, it's appropriate and timely that people do get interested. And I want to make sure that the commission is as available to each other and to the citizens as possible.
Okay. Any other comment on that?
We have to vote to waive our rules to set, so we can have that other meeting on the 14th. Do we have to?
Kind of. Well, okay. By consensus, how many people would like to schedule a tentative meeting for January 14th? That looks like a unanimous agreement. And again, we will make a decision at the 7th of January meeting, whether we need that extra meeting. Okay,
We will do a formal vote on that at that time if we need it.
I will include that in as part of the tentative schedule that we're going to be going.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Does anybody have any thoughts on potential future scheduling for town hall meetings? Again, that's why I put that on the handout schedule.
What is our purpose of town hall meetings if the charter has already been approved, sent to the council, and the council has called the election and put it on the ballot? Does that turn the town hall meeting into more of a campaign meeting to where we educate and go for an up or down vote? Because at that point, public input is done.
True. Well, there's one caveat on that. It might be, well, since I have not yet gotten information on parameters for how to put subjects on for individual vote, and I look forward to that. I don't know if there's any wiggle room at that point or not. I don't know what, I know what the date is for ordering an election. I don't know if the ballot language has to be finalized on that date.
It has to be finalized before the election can be called on February the 13th, but
The ballot
the
language.
ballot language.
Okay, so that's part of the order.
That is.
Okay,
That is.
okay.
And you have to mail that to everybody also.
Yeah.
And is there a time?
So that's part of the process for running the election. And I don't recall what the deadline date for mailing it out. It's different from the date for ordering the election. But yes, a copy must be provided to every registered voter.
I believe it's within 10 to 30 days before the date of the election.
Okay,
So
there's some, I think the timing on that actually needs to be considered. You don't want to do it too far in advance and you don't want to do it right up. So we haven't even looked at that as part of the transition plan, and I don't think that needs to be in the charter transition plan. That needs to be in the election planning stuff. Okay. So, to answer your question, Mr. Hodges, it would be more for education and, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion, I think, that leads me to believe a lot of people do not understand the total process, do not understand the details of the content of the charter. And I think the opportunity to explain and educate what those things are to the citizens is a fundamental responsibility the city should have.
Is there a reason that maybe January 15th is not blued? The reason why I ask is that if we're going to deliver a product to the council, as early as possible, let's say the 27th is the last day, that would give us a town hall session to obtain, if we get some more feedback, to potentially build, if we need to build that in, during that meeting so we can submit. These seem too late to me. That occur, we've got to back things up a little bit.
Right.
If we want to get any more input, right, from the citizens.
Maybe go to January 8th.
January 8th is, yeah,
Could be
that's
better.
That would be better. Actually.
Yeah. Because then that gives more public input, gives us a chance to brew over what they say. And it takes away the thought that we're taking public input and rushing it. We meet on the 7th. We'll have basically the final language by the time we get to the 8th. And then we can go with the public and see what the public has to say about that. And then we have something that could possibly even be ready to go to the council on the 13th.
Okay,
There's something to think about.
so what you're suggesting then is that we try to schedule a town hall meeting for January 8th, the day after our next meeting. And given all the business days that occur between now and then, a couple of which are, nobody's gonna be paying attention. That might, I have a concern that trying to get this scheduled and advertised and actually get good responsiveness from the citizens over the Christmas, New Year's week might not work. I'm quite willing to try it. I mean, that's, no, just stating that, you give me direction, I'll go make it happen.
What do you think?
I think the more the merrier. I also think that we ought to schedule, once the ballots go out, we need to schedule a town hall meeting, not ballots, excuse me. Once the text goes out to the voters.
Yes.
I think what we ought to do is have a town hall meeting after that and before the election. And it would, if it's legally permissible, I think we ought to put a notation in the information that's sent to the registered voters, telling them that there will be a town hall meeting on such and such a date to discuss this proposed charter and inviting them to come and learn more about it. Because, Gene, you know this so much better than any of the rest of us. I don't think we've ever had an election in Willow Park where we've had more than 17% of the registered voters vote.
2001, we had 1,004 voters,
What percentage was that?
closer to 35.
Oh my goodness. Okay, one time. But I
It
don't
might have
think,
been higher than that.
I think that may have been in the novel.
Oh, it was.
I remember that vote too. What was on the ballot?
Yeah, I lost that one. Actually, I lost the election that year by 12 votes.
Anyway, I think that,
No, bitter.
we do seem to have some interest in this. And I think that, getting some great big old thing in your mail might cause more people to be curious.
That's a good point.
And I think we ought to schedule one more, whatever 5 days is after it gets mailed out, whatever.
And then
But-
we've got those other 4 right here that are already on the calendar.
And I think that the idea of having one on January the 8th, maybe it will be well considered, maybe it won't.
This little blue box down here is the 2nd of April. That's 3 weeks before early voting starts. A month before the actual election.
How long is that after? Well, we don't know, of course, yet, but is the thought process that one will be after the information goes out to registered voters?
That'll be somewhere in here.
Well, then that's my comment, is that we want to be sure that we have a town hall meeting when people have the actual charter in their hands.
Okay.
And again, if people show up if we don't have a tremendous turnout on the 8th, I think the important thing is that we try. We create outreach and that we try.
I'm absolutely good with that. Now I'll see if we can find the facility and get everything to work. And I will let everybody know as soon as I know whether that's feasible.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other comment on the schedule? Moving along. And we've mentioned this again, the possibility of having items for a separate vote. We discussed this at the last meeting, and a few items that I threw out as possible things, y'all just said, no. Okay. But the Board of Ethics and Code of Ethics may be a feature that, if that's feasible, we might want to consider making that an option. Fritz, do you have any input on that?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. So I was mainly looking at a relying on authority that can pertain to charter amendments. So if the charter is ever amended, then separate ballot separate ballot propositions have to be submitted with respect to each amendment. And that's what.
Mhm.
But when we're just deciding whether to go to home rule, whether to adopt a charter, there's a single proposition that is submitted to the voters, and it's just
Up, down,
up or down.
that's it.
That's it. And that's the practice across the state, and that's, and, you know, as far as feasibility goes, I mean, how can you submit each individual article of a draft charter? And
I read the state law. I read what it says in there. I went, how do you do that?
And then essentially this segregated ballot propositions, that's for specific amendments to the charter in the future. But for adopting a charter in the first instance, it's just a yes or no vote. So that
Okay.
simplifies the process, at least from our end. We don't have to draft all of these ballot cards.
Okay, so that's a no. Making this easy, we move on.
For once.
And I was gonna talk about the input from the legal review, but, well, so we get to move on.
Well, before we do, G, do you have anything that, I know you and your office have started looking at it. Do you have any, last time we spoke, you said you didn't see anything off the top of your head that was outside of the norm or grossly beyond the pale of the statute? Have you?
And I still don't.
Okay, good,
I
thank
still do not.
That's good news. Thank you. Okay. So we have had inputs from Wool Park citizens. And Fritz, kind of pay attention to this because I didn't know whether I should send a copy of this to you or not. I sent it to the commission. This is a comprehensive approach to defining the code of ethics and defining a board of ethics. And it's a lot. It's 8 pages. It basically establishes that the city council shall adopt a code of ethics, but it puts explicit parameters and minimum content on that. And I kind of like that idea. I mean,
Hold on. How's that different from what we're?
This is very fleshed out. There's a lot more detail here than yes, sir.
Yeah, so.
It's very directive to the council as to what it shall do.
yep.
And there, or via the last 2 town halls and in other avenues, we have received a lot of questions around the Board of Ethics, the codes of conduct, how should or would that work? How do you elect members to that board? And so this set of, or these articles really flesh that out in a way that is pretty clear, at least in my opinion, relative to how those folks are elected, what the composition might be, and how they should work on that. So I thought it was pretty well done.
So I don't have time to run through this right now. I mean, we have talked ad nauseum about the practical issues that we have to weigh when deciding whether to have a code of ethics and or a board of ethics enshrined in the charter. It's very simple. These things are enacted for good purpose. It's for good government. It's for fair government. But sometimes it just ends up being used as a political weapon. And people start throwing ethics complaints at one another.
When you read this, Fritz, you don't have that.
Okay.
There are enough checks on that to takes the bomb throwing.
Away.
It takes that totally away.
It specifically deals with bad faith and frivolous complaints.
Can I ask if I may, what's the source of this document? I mean,
A citizen gave it to me.
okay.
And then I took that input and put it in the structure of what we put together.
Okay.
And it creates classes of badness, if you will. Slap on the wrist up to
Criminal referral.
recommending criminal referral.
Okay.
But it also requires that you have to, if you want to complain about something, you have to submit an affidavit under oath. I mean, it's not just I come in and
Can't
say,
send an
I
email.
don't like what he did.
It's not a witch hunt.
Okay. And again, when I sent this out, I identified that this is a lot to digest. Along with the rest of the stuff I sent out, there was a lot to digest. So, does anybody have any specific comments? And I got some feedback. This is great. Everybody likes it. It's really comprehensive. And I haven't had any negative comment about it.
Do we want to spend a couple of minutes just for our guests who are in the room today and those who are watching online to go through this? Let's take about 5 or 6 minutes and let's review the 8 pages so we can give everyone a summary of what we have here.
Okay. Let me see if I can. I've been working on a lot of things today and I wasn't actually prepared to do that. Would you like to do that, Charlie?
Yes, I'll do that for you.
Okay, I will try to keep up with you on the screen.
We are broken down into 2 articles for the charter. The first is the code of ethics. 1101 is for the purpose and policy, and we review the purpose of the articles to preserve public confidence in the integrity of city government. And that's by prohibiting the use of public office or employment for private gain, requiring transparency and accounting in the conduct of public business, and establishing clear ethical standards. The article is intended to supplement and not limit any requirements or remedies provided by the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Texas. And in the event of conflict, higher law does prevail, which means the state or the federal law takes precedence over this. The code of ethics shall apply to the mayor, the city council, members of city boards.
We probably don't have, it'll take more than 5 minutes to read
Right,
it.
I'm just going through here
Okay,
on this one.
go for it then.
We even get to the city manager, city attorney, city secretary, other city officers, and even vendors and contractors. We have adoption and contents of the ethics committee. These are people who in the community who are professionals. We require attorneys, we require accountants to be on this panel. Pardon? HR. And HR. 7 members should be on this board. Independent selection of the commission. They are totally independent. A selection committee, not the city council, not city staff, but a selection commission that shall consist of 5 members will be the ones who appoint the ethics committee. Appointment and removal of board members. These people are all appointed and they will have 2-year terms. Vacancies will be filled for the remainder of unexpired terms by the selection commission. A board member or alternate may be removed only for cause, including substantial neglect of duty, gross misconduct, and inability to serve, which means if the ethics committee starts not doing their job, they can be handled as well. Jurisdictions and limitations, there's a whole lot here. But basically what we're saying, and this is the ultimate Reader's Digest condensed version. Someone has a complaint against the city council, the mayor, any employee outlined in this commission. They have to supply an affidavit, not just an email complaint. It's not something written in the mail. It has to be an affidavit with or fully under oath. Which means if you're supplying information against somebody and it is not true, you in effect have committed perjury. So that leaves you under criminal review if you're making things up. We have members of the commission, 2 members of the commission will look over the complaint. If they believe that there may be enough evidence there to move forward, then the commission will move forward. We're going down into sanctions and remedies. We have 3 different types of sanctions. One is a technical or minor violation, and all of this will be determined by the commission. That is, if it's neglect or inadvertent, then it's a technical thing. If it's a substantial violation, that's knowing or reckless conduct, then your punishment is even stronger. Class 3 is egregious violations, which could, under the findings, subjugate the person to a criminal referral, which is something we don't have now, and that in this community, at least with the way people feel, having that there would bring more confidence to the way the city is operated. Advisory opinions. Any person subject to the code of ethics may request a written advisory opinion from the board on a specific topic. And here's the good one. Training annual report for transparency. The city council should provide for periodic ethics trainings for all persons covered by the code of ethics. The board may recommend training content and providers may participate in such training. So we're not just throwing people, we're not throwing our staff, we're not throwing the city council, we're not throwing the mayor out into the wild, wild west. We're training them on how to not get in trouble. To me, this is a safeguard. To me, this is a check. To me, this is the ultimate check and balance outside of the citizens' referendum. And I think it's an outstanding move. And as I told Eugene, to me, this right here, Articles 11 and 12 are very good reasons to vote for the entire charter.
Wow.
Question. How does this
I can't wait to see it.
jive with the Article 9.01, your Board of Ethics, that you already have something in there?
Well, okay, but right now, this has not been adopted.
Right, but I'm just,
And if it were, we would have to modify the reference to it from section 9. So that would be,
so it's in addition to, you'd be adding all that.
it would
to
be a
what's already
replacement
there.
of what's in section 9.
Further quick question. You emphasized that a commission appoints, but who appoints the appointers?
The selection board,
Yes. Where that comes.
selection board is 4-year terms
It's a little further down.
and
There you go.
The Independent Selection Committee.
There you go.
Who appoints the-
See, it's Roman at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I can't read that. I mean, that's just a question. Board members.
Okay, one member appointed by a local institution of higher learning, one member appointed by a recognized local regional certified public accountant. So
So this.
So these are experts that are being,
It's not like you guys being appointed by the mayor.
right.
No offense, but.
No offense.
I thought you did okay, but that's.
Can I add something to what Charlie said?
Huh?
As a judge, I worked with the Judicial Conduct Commission for many years. And when a judge was found guilty of malfeasance, a mistake, nothing serious, but enough to draw the attention of the commission, they were sent to me for so many hours for re-education. We have exactly the same thing at the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. We have a board for examining performance or bad performance of officers. There are 3 of us chiefs that do this. And basically it's set up exactly the way they talked about here. Most of the infractions are small, didn't show up for work, didn't report for work, missed a head count in the jail, didn't check, not huge things. But as they get bigger, the consequences increase. And I would say that as a judge, I saw several judges that were indicted by the Tarrant County jury and went to trial, lost their bench. And it was, for what they'd done, it was catastrophic. The same thing happens in law enforcement. So this is a very good model for what is being used currently with the Judicial Conduct Commission and with the Sheriff's Department, and most police departments work on a similar basis, just like this. And it works very well. And the idea is that we're not going to have to do it a lot. I don't see us having a lot of problems. The existence of a board of ethics, good people don't need it. Bad people need it. The people that walk the line, they need to have directions and know they can't cross the line. I think it's a beautiful document. I think this city would be well served with the document.
Good comment. Well, that's the opinion I've had, that the effect of having a board of ethics is like putting a lock on your shed, keeps honest people honest. That's about it.
One of the concerns that we've heard from some community members was that if we have these recall options for people, for ordinance, et cetera, that they will be overused, and it will be small groups of really involved people will clinch on. I actually think that having this ethics commission would be a first stop for something, for not all, but for a lot of the complaints that we're talking about. And I think the fact that this commission would be staffed by 5 professionals who are not appointed by anybody at the city, who have no dog in the fight.
There's 5
Oh,
on
I'm
the
sorry.
selection committee, 7 on the.
That's right,
board.
2 would be, but generally speaking, the people on this board, they don't have a dog in this fight. And they are professionals. And when a complaint comes to them, I think they're in a good position to tell whoever it is that's hot under the collar about whatever it is. If they are going down a wrong path, it would be, no matter how mad you are, it's hard to not listen to an independent commission tell you that not so much. So I tend to think that this would be a good check on an overuse of any of the recall propositions.
Candidly, I wish we had had this input in September. Because now, I mean, it's a lot to consider as we're coming down on the finish line. Okay. I am not going to entertain a motion to adopt this tonight. Too soon. Appreciate everybody's input. I would suggest that as a draft, I can incorporate this into the working document. I can incorporate red lines in section 9 that would replace the current addressment of ethics code, ethics board, and put that out there for comment.
I think that would be a very good idea, sir. Thank you.
I would like the city to highly advertise this move so that we can maybe actually get feedback from the citizens.
All citizens.
You good with that, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is there
So-
anything that Fritz can do to help? On this particular topic, so we're not waiting until the final review.
So
Entire charter.
maybe this question already been answered. Who selects the selectors?
okay, if you actually look there in
It's up on the screen.
On the screen, it actually does.
Well-
See Romanet 1 through 5.
1203 C, it talks about
Who they are, who picks them?
No, it is the selection.
Selected by the presiding judge of the county court or district court. One are appointed by the bar association, one by a CPA group.
okay, so it's not, it is soliciting recommendations from established organizations,
Oh, I see.
Higher education.
okay? And that takes politics out of it, period.
Continue, just quick. Someone is gonna have to go to that bar person and that CPA, so that's still gonna have to be an individual within the council or the city government or city manager, or somebody that's gotta go fish these people out.
I haven't had the opportunity to look into, how does this really work?
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's a great idea. My skepticism hasn't gone to zero yet. But,
Do they volunteer? Are they volunteer positions or are they paid positions when they're on this ethics board?
there is no reference in here to pay or compensation.
So is that, I mean, is that something that needs to be in there so that? I mean, cause that could be quite a, I don't know, time commitment or. Especially
Hopefully it wouldn't be
professionals,
that
they want to
great
be
a
paid
time
for their
commitment.
services.
this seems to be well prepared and documented and everything, so it came from someplace that somebody uses it, I assume.
I will have to find out what resources were used to compile this. I don't know
It's
yet.
Like Fritz can go back to other cities and say, well, the other cities wording is like this. If this comes out of nowhere, what track record, might there be? You see what I'm getting at? Not be,
That's why I'm putting this in as a potential thing to investigate. I mean, it looks good on the surface. But, the questions you're asking, and we're not gonna spend any more time on it.
This thing will be working out the details on developing the selection commission. That's the only thing I saw in there that's gonna.
But it's a
require
biggie.
some work. That's, and that's a biggie. But one other thing to consider is. We're using a lot of precedent from other cities in putting together our charter.
I know.
Every once in a while, it's not a bad idea to try to reinvent the wheel. Because a lot of things that happen in cities need to be reinvented. And getting confidence in a city is something that's worth doing a little bit of reinvention. Does that make sense?
I'm not working, I'm just.
No, I'm just asking if that makes sense to you.
Okay,
Yeah, in other words, it doesn't have to be a cut and paste from someplace. else.
Right.
Like,
does
sorry to interrupt.
anybody have any specific recommendations for how I should do what I just said I'm gonna do? Or just leave it up to me to tell you how I did it?
Do it, I'll say you did. It wouldn't be a bad idea if we could appoint a subcommittee of this committee with folks who have knowledge to look over the Article 12.3 in the independent selection committee process. And see if there's anything that we can come up with that would make that work.
One of the things I suggest to Gene is we might consider inquiring at the city of Liberty Hill or the city of Saxony that have these commissions set up. Perhaps we could have a Zoom call with one of their folks who've actually been working with their, whatever their board of ethics is and how it's worked, kind of best practices and pitfalls and all the usual stuff that you don't know about until you're in the big middle of it.
Would it be too much to ask the judge and Carol, since they have more knowledge about this and putting together something like this than the rest of us, if they could do a subcommittee and handle that Zoom call and then bring the results back to us?
I'm happy to do that.
So Carol and Roy just volunteered.
Yeah, Charlie volunteered us.
Carol too?
Carol too.
He sort of nodded his head.
He did have the hints going this way. Yeah,
Carol and Roy were volunteered. Okay.
and Carol,
And Daryl. Can't wait to see what we get out of that. Thank you all. Okay,
I volunteer too, but that makes it a quorum. We can't do that. That doesn't make it a subcommittee.
yeah, that's all right. So we also got a lot of questions during the two town hall meetings, and Daryl magnificently compiled the questions and answers to 21 different inputs from each of those events. But he did highlight the entry for several of the questions as needing better answers. Now, some of these
Right.
have to do with what are we going to do with the definition of the Board of Ethics. So we're probably not going to be able to come up with answers for those tonight.
And that's exactly why I highlighted it. This draft of Article 11 and 12. That answered those, if we adopt those articles, it will answer those previous questions.
And are the expectations of the council clearly documented? I think the role of the council is may not be exhaustive, but for purposes of the charter, I think it's pretty clear what the responsibility of the council is. Comment on that? Anybody, please?
I think I read the charter. That'll answer the question.
I didn't think.
I'm not sure I understand the question exactly. Expectations of the council. Certainly, a lot of that's addressed by statute.
I guess I read that as responsibilities.
A lot of that's addressed by statute. If there is a code of ethics or a code of conduct is part of this, and well, actually, a lot of that would be adopted by ordinance by the council. There's some discussion about it in the charter, but really that's kind of the creature of statute more than it is the charter, I think. Fritz?
I think when it was brought up, if I recall, it appeared that there is a lot of detail around the roles and responsibilities for the mayor, for the city manager, but not as much detail around the council. Now, if that's governed by, what you're talking about, then that's fine. But the person asks, should there be further detail in the
Once
chart?
again, I'm putting you on the spot, Fritz.
Thank you so much. So I think you answered that very appropriately. I think most of the considered expectations of the council are governed by state law.
Local government.
Yeah, and also, the council, individual members, they're essentially the city's governing body, the city's legislative body. And what they're supposed to do is show up and use their good judgment to make decisions and vote and listen and pay attention and, govern the city. So I don't know that I can answer the question unless what sort of expectations would they want enshrined in the charter? Because I've
other
never
than-
seen anything like that.
I'm not familiar, which doesn't mean anything, but it just seems to me that if the question is ethical/code of conduct, well, that's addressed by that. I'm not sure that we can do anything more about that.
Well, we can't go back to that person and ask for clarification on the question. But in the future, if we get a question of this nature, we should ask if, is there a specific thing you're looking for?
Right.
Okay. I mean, I try to stay away from situations where they'll let me know when I get the right answer.
If are we going to make, and by the way, Daryl, you did an awesome job. Are we going to make this available?
Yes. That's the
Okay.
intent.
That's the next
Yeah,
thing we're gonna decide is how do we want to package this information?
so my thought was, once everybody has a chance to run an eyeball over this and provide me any feedback on, the answers to the questions, I was assuming that we would post it out on the website so that people know, hey, we recorded your questions and here are the answers.
Then I think that's an important question. And I think that a general answer to it would be the expectations of the city council are governed by state law. The provisions that exist in the charter as written, and would be further addressed by any code of conduct/code of ethics that was adopted by the city. Because those are the places you go to find out what the expectations are. That's just my thought.
Is this a correct answer to question 20?
We jumped down.
Pardon?
I said we were on 18.
Now,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
He's multitasking.
yeah,
Okay.
I didn't think I thought I heard, we really can't come up with an answer for 18 tonight.
that's my answer. Just,
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's all we can say, unless somebody's going to give them a specific question. On number 20, I think this is a really good opportunity to note that the role of the charter is to establish a framework of government, but the establishment of things like the Parks Department, the Police Department, the P&Z, whatever, that's the role of the city council.
Yeah.
And we have to give them the authority through the charter to create things like departments and boards and whatnot. But it's not the role of the charter, and certainly not the role of the charter commission to do that. And I think this is a good opportunity to to let them know what the boundaries are.
So are you good with what I just added and the framework to that?
I think that's perfect. And I do think that's a good opportunity to make that clear, because I thought a lot of people were expecting some sort of soup to nuts. And then you go to, 3 members of this in 14 days, and that's really not what this thing does.
No,
Could we say established by ordinance, passed by the city council?
that would be redundant.
Well, for some people, they need the redundancy.
What's 4 more words of this?
Okay. Any other tweaks? Going, on. I'm not sure that the Home Rule Charter Commission
I don't have anything to do with that.
can estimate how much it's gonna cost exactly to do this. I mean, there are some specific costs to prepare information, distribute information, and conduct an election.
You know, not to be cranky. But back in August, we specifically asked Rose, when she attended one of these meetings, to contact the city of Aledo and find out how much money they spent on this. And we have never had any kind of response from her or anybody else on city staff.
Well, she was out on medical leave for a while and now may have forgotten about that, but,
Can ask again.
And it costs millions.
yeah, that would be one way to get an estimate that might or might not be useful to our implementation.
You want me to call Shane and ask him?
I'm sorry,
You want me to call Shane and ask him their expense?
sure. Um,
So number 4 and number 5, as I watched the video, the conversation went all over the place. Okay, so I tried to summarize a concern that was brought up. And the concern was the whole percentage, how many, registered voters do we need, to, do an initiative referendum and recall. I think we talked about it at nauseum. People were concerned that 229, 225, whatever the right number is, wasn't a bar that was high enough, because there's a concern that I think, as Carol, as you described it, or others, the fear of having a small number of folks running around with a grenade, and we're trying to prevent that.
well, and I think part of the answer would be watch the video from whichever meeting in October we did discuss it ad nauseum.
There
And
wasn't much of a discussion. It was only about 5 or
excuse
10.
me,
The text was already on the screen when you were all discussing it. The lesser of 30% of voters who voted at the last election, or
okay, I'm not gonna go round and round on that again.
I looked at that video several times, October 22nd, because I was trying to see, did you plug in numbers to see how it was gonna work? Did you, look at other cities? I kind of wanted to see how you came up with that.
The
That was
discussion was
discussed.
centered on trying to establish minimum and maximum numbers to avoid allowing random thrashing on the system. And on the other end, not make it so rigorous as to effectively eliminate the rights.
And that might be the basis of an answer to plug in here, is to say that the
Well,
commission,
that's exactly what we discussed.
I understand, but maybe that's the answer we plug in, is to say that the commission tried to balance not having the numbers so low as that would result in, a small group of people creating a problem, and having the numbers so high that it's functionally, as you say, has eliminated the right. Bearing in mind that we have historically very low voter turnout and citizen participation in local government, which is highly unfortunate, but a fact of life.
Carol, didn't we talk about that again at the last meeting? I think we talked with Fritz about adjusting some of those numbers. Was that? We talked about that. Yeah, and we did adjust those numbers to follow state law, correct?
That's about the charter amendment.
That's
Right.
right, but it wasn't on the recall stuff.
Recall initiative or referendum. which there is no state law.
Right.
It's just whatever you. Based on our discussions with that.
You know, one of the things that I brought up during the city council meeting, my comments was that to me, there's a big difference between accounting for a percentage of all registered voters versus a percentage of voters that voted at the last election. I think when you're using that second one, you're almost disenfranchising people that didn't vote in the last election.
They need to vote. What are you gonna do about it?
But you're disenfranchising them by saying, you really don't count, you didn't vote in this last election, so you don't count, so we're gonna use this smaller number of people that actually showed up at the polls.
So you think?
I don't know if that's legally something, I see it as a disenfranchisement of people that didn't vote in the last
They wouldn't
election.
have to vote. That was a-
Gene, didn't you already address this?
Pardon me?
You already addressed this?
I think we did multiple times.
Right.
This is my favorite
What
part.
about that?
For initiative of referendum and recall. It's percentages and I've seen those provisions, they're all over the map, right? But it's either percentage of all the registered voters in the city or all the registered voters voting at the last election. Sometimes it's a specific type of election. Sometimes it's the November elections. But there's no state law that sets ceilings or floors on what those numbers can be. So
Right. I understand that part. I'm just saying, you know, just because you didn't vote in the last election doesn't mean you shouldn't be counted. You shouldn't be considered.
You're very welcome to either sign a petition or not.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
that is a fair comment, but it's not a legal question. It's a I agree. It's decision above my pay grade.
Not subjective. What if you're in a car wreck the day before the election, you couldn't go vote?
And it happens when people.
Should you not be counted when it comes up to this percentage of how many signatures are required?
We're not gonna sit here and play what if.
You know, I think that
Thank you. No. There's a question here about rushing the process and can I trust the charter to fix things? If we rush the process and create vague statements, what risks are we accepting? But this question is itself vague, doesn't identify what might be vague or what it expects. So I don't know how to answer that question at all.
Sounds like a sucker question that you ask if you're trying to trip people up.
Well, I think there was a concern that night with, with how fast we're running. And, and is the commission spending enough time to make sure that it's worded, specific enough so that, broad interpretations don't occur, right? And they used an example of some of the poorly worded ordinances, right? That either confuse people or whatever.
So they were asking about ordinances that were done outside of this room and trying to put it in this room. That's, I see where you had your where you couldn't come up with an answer. There's nothing there.
Yeah, so I think it's, is the commission doing due diligence to make sure that when the charter is presented, that it's specific enough where it needs to be, and we reduce as much of any confusion that may occur from how it's worded. So
The answer very
the answer
simple
is
is yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Well, and we have an advantage here. A home rule charter is a pretty well established document. There are, 300 and, what was,
380 was the last.
400
thing.
and something eligible cities in Texas, 300 and something have taken it. So there are 300 and something charters that have already been written. And, thank goodness we are not a case of first impression. So we are not creating something out of whole cloth. We have precedent to help us.
Right.
And we could put that in as an answer too.
Yes.
that Due diligence is being, is being employed and we're leveraging, previously adopted and published documents.
There's risk.
Right.
And mitigate
We're trying.
by using other.
Correct.
And we can also honestly say that we have one member of our group who has read dozens and dozens of these charters and helped us in our initial research. So, yeah, I think we're doing the due diligence.
What you're gonna find is, as I documented these questions or concerns, pass no judgment, just documented it, for the commission
You did great.
to address.
You really did.
You did a great job.
You really did.
But I think we have to be very unbiased, and just record the concerns and the questions and
Okay.
exactly as they came in, so.
This thing about, does the charter need something about a comprehensive plan? It actually has a reference to a comprehensive plan, but it's in context of updating the capital improvement plan. So it doesn't actually say the city shall have a comprehensive plan.
And what is a comprehensive plan? There's so many different types of comprehensive plans. Could the
I'm
answer
not
to
sure
that
when we
be-
last updated the comprehensive plan in Willow Park. I think it was 2014. Ought to be done every 5 years.
Well,
So we're only
do
a few years off.
do we just say that the purpose of the agenda is not to establish policy or mandate plans? This is a governance document, much like the US Constitution, that is used to outline what the council can and can't do, and to give the rights to the people as to how their city is run.
Okay, so currently the charter does not mandate.
I honestly think that's the role of the city council.
Specific
Isn't it already
requirement
defined?
for a comprehensive plan.
Chapter 211 and 212
It permits, it doesn't,
doesn't force.
it doesn't give any kind of structure to it. It gives them the power to do it. It's within the purview of the council.
Okay. I think most of the answers that you've put in here are spot on.
Yes.
Appreciate it very much. Again, do we want to, I think there's some overlap in the questions from the two town halls. I can get with Rose tomorrow and try to combine these and maybe draft up a frequently asked question view. And I can send that out for your individual review and feedback. And if I get a good positive result, we can post that on the website.
Sounds great.
Do we need to still publish the original questions, and then the answers, because folks asked them and we said we would come back with responses.
Well, we
And
can
so,
just take that, say frequently and ask, and then just put the whole thing up.
I can have that happen too. But we want to create a frequently asked
Thank you.
questions view, and separately post the compilation of questions from citizens.
And another thing we can do, if it's technically possible, along with that, put in a submission form to a person who's reading these, and a question comes up, that they can ask the question and submit it, and then we can get it and answer it and put it right back up there.
Okay, so currently, the only thing provided is a link that somebody could send a message that would come to me, that would pose a question, and then I could try and get an answer.
Well, then let's.
And I know that system works because I actually punched that link and sent myself a test message. And that's the only message I've gotten from that link.
Well, then let's make sure that link is right there with the frequently asked, and that way people can ask questions. It'd be a lot easier if we had the suggestion box and they hit click. But if we can't do that, we can't do that.
We'll pursue that also. Okay. Okay. Yes, see. Okay, I sent to you an input on a citizen's code of conduct. Anybody have any comments on this?
I did not get that, Gene. Can you scroll down on that?
I didn't get it either.
You didn't get it.
No, I didn't. I don't recall.
I know I sent it to you all.
Well, I don't remember getting it, but I think any government telling its people how it's supposed to act is like a baseball team saying that their fans have to go to training on how to be a baseball fan when they spend hundreds of dollars to go to a game. So I have problems with putting anything like that in a document like this.
I agree. It makes us, it's prescriptive on the very people that the city is supposed to serve. Now, the city council is certainly welcome within the context of the Open Meetings Act, of course, to set up requirements for civility and respectful discourse and so forth, but at the meetings, but other than that,
Well,
I
as a
think-
matter of fact, if you've signed up for speaking to the city council, you have signed a thing that says specifically comments shall be courteous and respectful at all times. Speakers making personal, unfounded, profane, or slanderous remark may be removed from the room.
and I think that's about as far as we should go. And that's not us doing anything, obviously.
Okay?
But I mean, if everybody, if the rest of the commission feels differently, of course, but that's just my thought.
With her as well.
I really don't want to see city council person Runenbaum and Young and our prior city attorney were treated very poorly by citizens of this city on social media.
Wagner. That was in the message. Everybody read it. There's no reason to repeat it. And there was nothing anybody did forced anybody to resign, period.
Once.
Yeah, once.
Okay. Okay. I forwarded to you a message from Councilmember Wright that had several inputs. I noted several items from that review that I think need attention. And I think we should look at those. But before we go to that, my list, did anybody find any inputs from Mr. Wright's submittal that they want to address at this time? I'll come back to that then. Okay. Oh, Note that this version has a new item at the bottom, because I revised it on the 10th of December. We had previously discussed that the municipal court definition included originally municipal court of record, but we had discussed taking the of record out. And that was still in there on the December 3rd version. This version has that removed to comply with your previous direction. Okay. Let's see. Judge of qualifications in section 310, the city council shall be the judge of the election and qualifications of its members. The input is that should probably read, let me do this before I start that. The election returns. Returns and qualifications of its members. I think I sent this list of changes to you all also. So does anybody have any comment to that?
No.
Okay. In 312, the recommendation is to add the word normally in reference to holding, oh, not only, the council shall normally hold 2 regular meetings each month. To add the word normally and to delete the words at least 2.
Why put in normally? We can just mandate they hold 2 regular council meetings every month.
Well,
Is the concern that there's an emergency and so they don't have a meeting? What's the concern?
Well, that's covered.
okay, the
So we're
current,
not having a meeting this month because of Christmas holidays. I think that my point in that was to just give some flexibility. That yes, it's normal to have 2 meetings a month, but there may be occasions where we don't. And I don't want us to be in violation of the charter in that occasion.
and I agree with this.
I like that way it is.
Well, it is potentially restrictive. So I think that
Other cities have 2 meetings every month, and if they need to make changes, they can do that.
well, the city of Willow Park ordinance currently states that they'll have 2 a month, but they can modify that at will. If you put in the charter that they have at least 2, then you're creating a requirement that they can't adjust.
Then you put in, if it's all about December, and then say with modifications for holidays as necessary. Because if you say normally, then define normally. What can happen to where they start changing, this is not a normal month. We're going to change the number of meetings that we have.
If the concern is December, then say, she'll have 2 regular meetings a month with the exception of December. Well, there'll be 1 meeting.
I don't know that December is the only concern because I've not been on the council that long. But I do know
I think the city council needs to show up 2 times a month and do the business of the city.
Well, okay, time out. I've spent a few hours on the city council myself. But, well, no, I won't go there. At some point, there may not be enough business to have a second meeting in a month. It's very possible. Okay. So the business requirement ought to drive what the schedule is. And that's why I'm comfortable with establishing that 2 meetings a month is the normal.
You know, I'm not comfortable with that because in addition to transacting the business of the city, it also creates a public forum for citizens of Willow Park to come and address the council. And You know, the month of December, I understand that, that's Christmas and people have other concerns. But for the rest of the year, they need to make themselves available twice a month. Plus, the city of Willow Park is no longer, you know, a pokey little 2,500 people that when I moved here 30 years ago. We are 9,000 people and we are growing. And the bigger Willow Park gets, the more we need to be able to be sure that the city council is showing up and putting in the time and the effort.
See, the meetings are held every second Tuesday,
Currently second and fourth.
second and fourth. Well, the fourth Tuesday this month is the 23rd. That's not Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. You have meetings and I've been to city council meetings on the 23rd of December. I have covered them. Yes.
I went to a joint meeting of the city council and the planning and zoning meeting on December 26th.
Yep.
That actually caused me to run for the city council. That's a different story.
Well, I see shall up there, but it doesn't address what happens if they don't. And what happens if they don't have a quorum?
Well, not having the quorum is a different critter.
But you can't hold a meeting without a quorum.
That's right. Then
So
somebody showed
what
up.
do you do with that?
That takes care of their normally.
Yeah.
People don't show up, they don't have a meeting.
That might be a good question for, to be brought before the ethics commission.
Yeah.
Is there a constructive input?
What is the penalty if this is in the charter and they don't hold a meeting?
Take the birthdays away.
What's the penalty gonna be? There isn't one, correct?
If there's any
Among other things, if we have an ethics commission, then you can take that to the ethics commission.
Yeah, but so if we don't have that meeting, is that, I mean, this seems,
Not
I'm
necessarily.
not trying to say
The
we're not
reason
gonna
would be
be there, I
why.
want to.
Is it because everybody had COVID?
So when it's-
Or is it because everybody didn't show up because they were trying to make sure that something they didn't want to talk about didn't get talked about? You know.
Yes.
Somebody put in the
Well, that's not exactly what Buddy put in. I put the normal.
You have suggested language for that, but
I said, the city council shall hold regular meetings as established by ordinance, provided that the council may cancel or reschedule a regular meeting when it determines that no city business requires consideration or when circumstances make holding the meeting impractical.
oh, that's Wemby from the Spurs throwing a jump from the free, that's perfect.
So adopt.
But it does ignore the citizen input.
It does ignore citizen input.
Doesn't recognize the fact that citizens need to talk.
You talked to us at the next meeting when we were there. I mean, if there's not a meeting to be had. I mean, and you got my email. You've got my email anytime you want to talk to me.
As
But I don't
sensitive
wanna
as
talk
I
to
am
one
to
person.
that,
I
I
wanna
don't
talk
think,
to everybody. I don't want to do it in
I
public.
think that's true. It's not one person. The council.
And it's in public. It's broadcast. It's on record.
I don't have a problem with making addressing the December issue. But I think the feeling of this body is that we don't cancel meetings just because the city manager or mayor doesn't find enough stuff to put on the agenda. I think put an exception for December, otherwise get your to the
Well, and you know, if, let's say the reason it is because, you know, 4 of the council members have COVID, that's one thing. But if the city council members aren't showing up because they don't want to discuss something that's on the agenda, that's something else entirely.
Agreed. I'm not suggesting that at all. Like I
That's
said,
what's
it is-
happened.
But that's
It has happened
Yes, that has happened.
for my time.
Might be before your time, but it's happening.
okay, I need to know what to do here. Need to move on.
I heard slam dunk, but you know, that's just me.
I'm fine with an exception for December, but I'm not
Change
fine
my
with
mind on that, exception for December, that's it.
I think that's a little overly. It does not give any flexibility.
Why don't you just make it, instead of regular meetings, say you gotta have meetings, 2 meetings every.
Because there's different things you can do at different times. You need two regular.
And you see, the thing is, we're not establishing what day those meetings are. So for things like holidays and stuff like that, you have the flexibility under the charter to change your meeting day.
So the 2
But it goes to regular meetings.
If the
regular meetings-
regular meetings are not established
We're
under the
under
charter
gun.
when they're gonna be.
I'm gonna call timeout on this item. I'll talk to you about it later.
Totally fine.
Okay. 4.04. Item L. I read through this and after considering it a little bit, I'm not sure what the phrase and equitable programming means.
If it would help, take out equitable. I think it's supposed to deal with intergovernmental cooperation and programming. That's like, participating in the Council of Governments.
I'll be comfortable with period right after cooperation because I'm not sure what programming means in there even.
That's where I was too, Gene.
Anybody got a good answer for that
You have
one?
an answer for that?
I say it can go. Yeah. Mission. Agreed.
Cooperation semicolon.
Okay. 613, there's just a bad format thing where it says get the oops. This should be a B.
Right.
And I'm not sure how to change that on the fly here. And failure of the city to call an election. Down here in the bottom, the district judge may discharge any such duties to the district judge may issue appropriate orders to compel performance of such duties.
I think that was something that the legal people would have come back with.
I beat him to it.
I'm kind of in agreement with making this change. Fritz, you got an input?
Not following. What are you talking about specifically?
Let's see.
Where it says the district judge may discharge any duties, the judges don't usually do that. They issue orders to compel. They order officials to act, not act in their place.
So I agree that language can come out. Because that is what would happen anyway.
Right.
If the council does not call an election when they're supposed to, then I think it's.
So the recommendation here is to add fingers go weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, take out discharge. Leave such, take out discharge. Herein, so it's appropriate orders to compel performance of such duties herein provided.
That sound right? Okay,
Take out the.
Any,
Wait a minute.
take out what?
take out any,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. 704. Um. Bunch of stuff.
I think this was one where we were, looking at the
Here it is.
GFOA.
Putting guidance and the comment was that. Which version of the GFOA stuff? And to fix that, I was thinking that. Simply the word current would fix it.
How about then current?
Then current
Mm-hmm.
must be an attorney.
What I had suggested was consistent with generally accepted governmental accounting and budget practices. Not necessarily limiting ourselves to this GFOA. But I'm not.
The GFOA is more for what city municipalities, what municipalities have to be in.
But it says best practices, including but not limited to,
Right,
so it's best practices in general.
Fair enough.
okay. 708. 708. Oh, I think this was my comment. In looking at this, 708 is actually hanging and ought to be subsection C under 707.
I think my comment was that it's shall adopt. And that doesn't give us any flexibility to come back and say, oh, that needs to go back somewhere. Maybe we should reject it. It just says shall adopt, period. If we don't adopt it, we're in violation.
Yeah, well, you really need to have a current capital improvement plan.
Right, but we may
And you may,
adopt, modify, or reject.
Well,
It says you adopt it, it doesn't say how you get there.
Right.
yeah, I think if it's a subset under C, then A and B tell you how to get there. Or if it's 7.07 C instead of 708, then it becomes subservient to
I see what you're saying.
all that other
Right.
stuff.
I can
Okay.
get there.
So I think that fixes the concern.
Next one was every 5 years, the city will conduct a forensic audit. And forensic audits are expensive and usually driven by cause. If there's a cause for one, yeah, let's have one. But let's not just prescribe one just because.
Fritz?
there is no law that governs, this is a policy question.
What is the norm?
What he said, there's an audit that has to be performed every year, but it's not a forensic audit. A forensic audit
Is a bigger creature.
Right.
expensive.
Now that I'm looking at the text that I put here, may conduct a forensic audit upon direction of the city council. I'm gonna have to look at how to fit those words in here correctly.
I'm concerned with limiting us into an every 5 years expense. When it may or may not be necessary.
I agree.
How about instead of will conduct, change that to change to may,
Let's see, every 5 years got to do with if we're meant to do that.
because
consider it.
you can consider it.
And if it's not 5 years, we don't have to.
That's what the word shall does instead of may.
Shall says you
will.
have to, may says it's something you can consider.
I go backwards.
So you want to just take this word and say may. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, just,
Yes.
Honestly, once you've got the may in there, Buddy's right, the every 5 years is kind of superfluous.
then take the every 5 years out and say the city may conduct an independent forensic, well, then that gets into policy. I just strike it.
No, because you gotta give them the power to do it.
True.
Well, I think that the real requirement may be for the city to consider whether conduct of an independent forensic audit is necessary.
I think the text I have, the suggested text I have is may conduct a forensic audit upon direction of the city council.
Yeah, but that's still missing the point though. I think what the intent here is that periodically the city should consciously consider whether a forensic audit is necessary.
We consider that every year we have an audit if it is necessary. If something shows up funky, we need to address it.
Let me put it in context of this. There was a time when a request to go to the Board of Adjustment was submitted. And nobody knew who was on the Board of Adjustment in the city. And somebody suggested that maybe we require the Board of Adjustment to meet quarterly just so we know who's on the board. This is the same concept except for 5 years. It's a thing, a statement that you will consider whether or not you need to do something. It doesn't require you that you do it. But I think that concept ought to be retained.
So you want to put something in there that says something along the lines of, at minimum, every 5 years, the city will consider a forensic audit? Does that make sense to everybody?
How about take the every 5 years out and the city council, the city may consider an independent forensic audit based on recommendations from the city auditor, city manager, and city council.
Agreed. I can get there.
Whoa. You don't want, then you are saying that the,
Okay, send me that text as a suggestion. I will incorporate it. The last thing I have on this list is to consider whether we should change September 31st to September 30th.
I concur.
Look, it's the day we pay our taxes.
There's some sort of
Okay,
line.
say, no, keep it on the 31st. That's great.
And we are within 7 minutes of the forced time to adjourn. I'm going to save this document. With the changes that were incorporated. I don't think I accepted it. Yeah, I did too. I've got a few action items to incorporate stuff, go meet with people, generate some information. And I hope Tandy caught all that stuff so she can tell me what I have to do. Does anybody else remember having accepted an action item?
Probably just did.
Carly's gonna send you text, yeah.
You just passed it.
Oh, I was down.
Then Carol and I and the judge have connection to.
Well, that's true. You are a subcommittee.
And if you want me to be part of that, I will be. I just suggested y'all because I think sometimes too many cooks supply.
Okay. So. Nobody has anything else?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I know that you spent a long time going through this gentleman's inputs.
Mhm.
I still have to go through it, so at the next meeting, can we look at some of these additional items?
Of course. At that meeting, we will be able to address any and all parts and parcels of the draft working charter.
If you have any specific questions you want to talk to me about, email me, I'm happy to help.
Okay. And please do, I will package up the new Article 11 and 12. Look at that seriously. I have my own somewhat reservations about how that would be implemented, how we would actually get some of the fine organizations listed to nominate persons to be on the Board of Ethics.
That's that was my first concern when that's pointed out. We asked them pretty please.
So I'm just gonna let them go with it but that's my biggest potential concern about that. The comprehensive addressment on how the Board of Ethics would operate, I think is superb. But the proof is in the pudding.
The one thing we have to consider on that, and I'll just make this point very quickly. The Board of Ethics is being created for a political body, which is the city council. It is very difficult to create anything involved with a political body that in itself inherently is not political. So we may have to consider the ethics committee being appointed by people who are ultimately appointed by the city council with input from those organizations. Those organizations don't make the recommendation, but they can make suggestions, and then it's up to the council. That's all things that we have to consider on that over the next couple of weeks.
Right. And I kind of agree with that as a compromise, if needed. Because again, the safeguards in how an issue would be brought to the attention of the Board of Ethics is an essential part of what's proposed there.
Right.
And actually putting requirements on the submitter of an issue so that it alleviates just random, I don't like that.
Yeah, no, that's huge.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn 2 minutes early. Okay. Thank you.